welcome to a special edition of Truth to Power. I'm your host, Darwin Griffin, and I'm here with my co-host who probably needs very little introduction, and he is Mr. Norman Clement of Detroit Change Initiative, and we will be soon joined by State Senator Sylvia Santana. There's a lot of people that are going to attend the homegoing services for Fred Durhal Jr. This morning, and we definitely want to extend our deepest condolences and our heartfelt prayers to Trey, his son, as well as to the family. So I know I went to the viewing yesterday over at Kohl's on the Boulevard, and it was just great to see an outpouring of support from all the people that came out to support the family. And, it was a lot of dignitaries that were there to lend their support. And so that's one of the things that we know, that there's a lot of people that are looking to celebrate this holiday season, but sadly enough, we know that some things are inevitable. So again, we just ask everyone to be safe. We pray that everyone will have a joyous holiday with Christmas season and New Year. We pray that you had a great Thanksgiving, as well. And you are still, I'll say, basking in the joy of, I know it was kind of exciting last night, those of us that got a chance to watch the game last night. So all that turkey that we ate on Thanksgiving Day, I think we kind of got all excited, and we kind of jumped around and was running up to the TV set, running back and throwing our hands up, with plays that were made and plays that weren't made. So it was a good game last night. So those of us that got a chance to witness it, as you can see the smile that pops up on my face when I think about it. We know the Lions needed it, but we'll talk a little bit more about that as well. But before we get started, I made a connect with, we do a Thursday luncheon group with a gentleman named Gerald Davis. Usually it's every first Thursday of the month. And one of the ladies that provided the tea for our Thursday luncheon group yesterday, she has a Christmas shopping market that she's going to be involved in on Saturday, December the 13th, from 1 o'clock to 6 o'clock. And please support her. It's going to be at 20601 Beach Daily off of 8 Mile, and it's in Redford Township. And if you want to get more information about this shopping market, you can contact or text 248-252-4828. And we definitely want to encourage people to support Black-owned businesses. So, Norman, I just wanted to say real quick, I know you watched the game. We'll be joined by State Senator Santana shortly. But, and the one thing, too, we might even almost want to wait until State Senator Santana joins us to go and talk, because all hands on deck when it comes down to talking sports now.
Yes, it is, yes.
It's not just the men, but women are just as excited about sports as what the men are. So, and we can learn something from the women.
Yes, we can.
About sports, as the women have learned some things from us, about sports.
Yes, a game like I know a ton of my friends, lady friends, friends who I work with, season ticket holders, folks at work, and so many teachers say, after we did the outreach yesterday, I said, so 4 o'clock, I said, you don't watch the game? She said, watch the game. I'm going to be at the game. And so they frigid temperatures, folks came out and supported the Lions, and they pulled out a much-needed victory. And, we'll see what happens next. They get the next couple of days off. It was a needed win. I think also too, it was a gut check time, because if they did not win that game, that was it. And I think they have to win out for the rest of the season. We may have some injuries. I know the strong safety Branch may have tweaked his ankle. Some say it's Achilles. We don't know. We hope it's just an ankle injury. But other than that, man, it was a great win. You see both running backs a little bit more into the game a little bit with Montgomery and Gibbs. And
Gibbs scored 3 touchdowns.
Gibbs scored 3 touchdowns. Montgomery had a nice long run touchdowns. And also the defense stepped up yesterday. Got a lot of pressure on the quarterback. That CD Lamb and mainly Perkins didn't really. They got some catches, but it really wasn't a. They were able to get some stops too. So that was a great win for the Lions, and a much needed win that we definitely need to see.
Well, it's so funny, Norman, how before the show you were talking about the uniforms.
Yeah. I don't wear them black uniforms anymore. They wanted some of them before, but look, let's put them up until whatever. Every time I see them playing black uniforms up close, it's never always fared well. So the white uniform, black, whatever different combination they use is a different combination. But just all black, them uniforms ain't really. Maybe it's a helmet, something, I don't know. But
so you think the uniforms jinx the team when they wear those uniforms, or what?
No, I don't think. I just think they play better without it. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. But they went right back to the Nike Pro Max, and they looked like they did out there a little bit more faster, a little bit more better. The old traditional uniforms, I don't know. This my speculation. I don't know.
Well, that sounds like a jinx to me.
Just me.
When you talk about, certain color uniforms and, and I think the thing is that last night, because it was a Thursday night, football game, I know a lot of people that were there at the viewing for Fred Durhal Jr. that, it ended at 8:00. Mm-hmm. And I think when I was talking to several folks, it was there at the viewing, and they were like, what time the Lions come on? What time the Lions come on?
Yeah.
But, it was just great to see the outpouring of support.
Right.
The people that came out. Mm-hmm. But, that I think when I left, I had to stop and get some candy. We're going to be having a holiday party with Western Wayne County NAACP, and we're also going to be having a state meeting for NAACP, and it's coming up on the 13th out at Western Wayne County out in Taylor. Okay. And so we're going to be the host branch, of that event. Okay. So, we've got a lot of different things planned. So again, I'll make that announcement next week about where that's going to be at and the time and everything. So if people want to come out, they want to support us, Western Wayne County. I'm on the executive board with them and also on the state board for NAACP. Right. But if they want to come out, they want to support, they want to come and join, combine with us, the Detroit branch, which is probably the largest branch in the entire United States, under the helm of Reverend Dr. Wendell Anthony. And so we've got a lot of things going on. This is a great holiday season. Yeah. Everybody's got a lot of parties that they're going to. They've got a lot of holiday celebrations. People are having a lot to be thankful for, just after the holiday. But again, I'm just more thankful right now that, as you said, the Lions got that needed.
Yeah, got the needed win. And I think a lot of folks are thankful that, or some organizations, especially small nonprofits, bigger nonprofits, are still here. And I think that when you're talking about the NAACP, I think it's in the interest of everyone join the NAACP. Especially in this time now where I know folks are coming together to holiday parties, but also they're strategizing also about what's the next steps of, or they already strategized. It's pretty much come together and say, okay, January, we're here, and let's get ready to go. Talking about as far as ideal of getting candidates who are running, candidates who are not running, and really, see, ambition is one thing, but if you got to have a plan and the vision and support, and also the relationship to win, meaning the relationship not with elected officials, but really a relationship with those community members that will support and back you right now.
And that's going to be the difference. We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll have the Honorable Sylvia Santana, State Senator for the great state of Michigan. So stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Feel good about your future with tuition-free programs at Wayne County Community College District. Whether you want to be in healthcare, computer science, the culinary arts, digital media, or robotics and automation for the next generation of vehicles, WCCCD has you covered. A full range of programs to achieve your goals, fit your schedule, and give you all the support you need to be successful. All of it tuition-free. Now there's something to feel good about. Register today at wcccd.edu.
Every Monday through Friday from 12 noon to 3 p.m., it's the Tavis Smiley Show on WHPR TV and Radio 15.2. Also seen on Roku, Fire Stick, Apple TV, iPhone, and Android. That's the Tavis Smiley Show on WHPR TV and Radio. Download the WHPR TV app for iOS, Android, and Roku. The Tavis Smiley Show, distributed by R.J. Watkins Studios.
Clean up on aisle 5. Sounds like my life right now. Just one big mess.
What's going on?
It's my property taxes.
What?
I am behind, and I am so worried that I'm going to lose my house. I can pay some of it, but I can't pay it all at once.
Sorry to interrupt. I'm Eric Sabree, the Wayne County Treasurer. The last thing I want is for anyone to lose their property to tax foreclosure. We have assistance programs to help.
For more information, go to treasurer.waynecounty.com.
We're here to help.
Justice for Mario Willis. Truth. Facts. Evidence. Mattered. Log into justiceformariowillis.com. Read for yourself.
Block time is available. Get yours. Call 313-868-6612. That's 313-868-6612. Executive producer R.J. Watkins. Program director Henry Tyler. 107.5 FM. WGPR HD3. Radio we can see.com.
313watkins.com. Streaming on Roku.
Morning again, and welcome to a special, very special edition of Truth to Power. And we are very, very fortunate, and it is a plum-pleasing pleasure to have the beautiful State Senator Sylvia Santana on the set with us today, Norman.
Yes, it is.
State Senator, it is a pleasure to have you here to grace this set today.
Good morning. Good morning to your audience, too. And thank you for having me.
Thank you for having us.
And we know that you, went to support the family for the Honorable Fred Durhal Jr. This morning. So I guess I'm going to just ask you the first question, in terms of, say, if you would, to just give your some of your thoughts about the Honorable Fred Durhal Jr.
Well, thank you so much, and it is an honor to be here amongst your listening audience. And Fred Durhal Jr., it's so funny because he served with my husband, the former and Honorable Representative Harvey Santana, and my interactions with Fred were pretty much in his last days, because I think a lot of times what has happened with me is that I would call his son, and it was typically him. And so oftentimes he was, in the hospital at the time. And so we just have a good conversation. And, you tell me, Senator, you're doing a great job up there in Lansing. Keep up the good work. Keep supporting the community. Keep doing what you know that is the true North Star, which is helping to support our people here back in the heart of Detroit. And for me, that meant a lot. And I served with his son, Fred.
That we call Trey now.
Yeah, Trey. Okay. And, Fred would always Fred would talk about how he would, just shadow his dad before he became a legislator, and how that meant the world to him, and how being a part of that process before he wanted to be a part of the process was important to making sure that he built those relationships. And that's one of the things I remember about Fred Durhal Jr. was that he was a great relationship builder. People knew him throughout the city of Detroit, and that means a lot to the heart of our communities when their elected officials are not just lip service, but also actually providing that action back in the community and being visible, which is really relevant, and taking action when they go to Lansing, and not forgetting that it matters how they support our communities in Lansing, but also making sure that resonates back in the heart of our communities. And I think Fred Durhal Jr. was definitely an exemplary person who did that very well.
Yeah, he was. And I used to help him, and I was riding up and down 12th and 14th and Linwood and Dexter, me and Derry Blackman and some other people, and we would have bullhorns. Back in the day, that's what we used when we were trying to get people elected.
Oh, yeah.
I know now state senator is probably a little different now, especially with the advent of social media, and people can put all of their campaign information and literature on Facebook and Twitter and things like that.
Sure.
But we were, back in the day, we would be riding up and down. We'd stop at the barbershops and the stores, the liquor stores and all that, and we'd be like, all right, you got to get out there and vote. Make sure you're registered to vote. And they'd come up there to the car, to our truck, and it was like, so who we voting for? Fred Durhal Jr. And we would just go and just make certain that everybody understood the importance of getting out to vote. And I know you encompass that a lot in the campaigns that you've had, to get reelected or even to get elected, in the first place.
Oh, yeah. I would say, what you just spoke on is still very relevant today. As far as how campaigns are ran, and we still have to touch the people. That is very important to the fabric of why, democracy exists. And we have to still make sure that we're in front of people and knocking on their doors and asking them for their support, but also, more importantly, listening to them to see what they want as well, or what they need as well, and how we can bring that to the forefront of governance. But yes, to your point, campaigning has changed significantly. It's now social media, your YouTube, reels, and oh man, it's so different. I mean, and I just think about the first campaign that my husband and I entered, many years ago, before even we were candidates, and just thinking about how it's changed so much. I remember working on Ken Cockrell's campaign and being at the senior events at Belle Isle and helping to support the seniors, and that's been many, many, many years ago. And so, yes, it has changed a lot, but I still think the core competence, the core fabrics of campaigns still are relevant. Connecting with the people, touching the people, and listening to the people is still very important, regardless of social media, because the social media can only do so much to propel your campaign. You still gotta get in front of the people at their doors.
Now, tell us, and I'll give you a chance to chime in. But the thing I wanted to ask you too is, State Senator, talk about your district and what your district encompasses. And then the main thing I want to do, because our show is educational.
Okay.
Because we want to let people know the difference in terms of, say, about what a state senator does compared to what a state rep,
Sure.
does. Yep. And, I know your husband was a state rep at one point. Mm-hmm. And then you were a state rep as well, too.
Yeah. Yes.
And then, so you can kind of speak to that, the differences between the duties of a state rep as well as the duties of a state senator.
Okay, so yes, to your point, to your first question, as far as just campaigning in general, I think, or my district in general, yes, that's what you asked about. My district is very unique, I will say. Before redistricting, my district was probably about 64% Detroit.
Okay, hold that thought. We got to take a quick break. So 64%.
64%.
So we're going to put a pin in that part right there.
Okay.
Tim has asked us to take a quick break, so we're going to take a quick break, and we will be right back with the Honorable State Senator Sylvia Santana, and of course, Norman Clement, Detroit Change Initiative. I'm your host, Darwin Griffin. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Have you ever wanted your own TV show? Have you dreamed of showcasing your talent for the world to see? Well, now you can. Have your own TV show. You can have your own 30-minute show. Not only will you be seen in the Detroit area, but you can be viewed worldwide. For more information, call 313-868-6612. Visit our studios and receive a free TV interview to promote your business, church, or organization by appointment only.
I'm Wayne County Treasurer Eric Sabri. If you're behind on your property taxes, we have programs to help. You don't have to lose your house, and you don't have to pay all at once. This summer, our mobile unit will be visiting Wayne County communities to help make it easier to start a payment plan and keep your property. Go online or call to find the plan that's right for you and where you can get help from our mobile unit. The last thing I want is for anyone to lose their property to foreclosure. Make your payments every month and keep your property.
Muscles, joints, or feet tired, achy, or distressed? Tried everything? Ringmaster Rubbing Oil is a vintage topical pain reliever, trusted for over 70 years, with a rich formula for the treatment of stubborn aches and pains. Packaged in a glass bottle for purity, our liquid can also be used in warm water for foot soaks and compresses. A little goes a long way. Try our time-tested formula, available in several sizes.
Make a donation to WHPR-TV and receive 2 2-ounce bottles of Ringmaster Rubbing Oil for $25. Call 313-868-6612.
Feel good about your future with tuition-free programs at Wayne County Community College District. Whether you want to be in healthcare, computer science, the culinary arts, digital media, or robotics and automation for the next generation of vehicles, WCCCD has you covered. A full range of programs to achieve your goals, fit your schedule, and give you all the support you need to be successful. All of it tuition-free. Now there's something to feel good about. Register today at wcccd.edu.
Every Monday through Friday from 12 noon to 3 p.m., it's the Tavis Smiley Show on WHPR TV and Radio 15.2. Also seen on Roku, Fire Stick, Apple TV, iPhone, and Android. That's the Tavis Smiley Show on WHPR TV and Radio. Download the WHPR TV app for iOS, Android, and Roku. The Tavis Smiley Show, distributed by R.J. Watkins Studios.
Block time is available. Get yours. Call 313-868-6612. That's 313-868-6612. Executive producer R.J. Watkins. Program director Henry Tyler. 107.5 FM. WGPR HD3. RadioWeCanSee.com.
313watkins.com. Streaming on Roku.
Welcome back, and we are plumb pleasantly pleasured to have had an opportunity to meet the great state senator here in the phenomenally fantastic state of Michigan. And Norman, I just don't know. We have a lot of guests that have come on the show with us before, but I'm very, very honored to have State Senator Sylvia Santana on the show with us. And we've had some good people.
Yeah, we had some good people.
We've had some good people. I mean, we've had Jasmine Crockett. Mm-hmm. We've had Cory Booker.
Yep.
We've had Jim Clyburn.
Yep.
We've had a lot of greats.
Great.
But we have now State Senator Sylvia Santana on the show with us today.
Yes. And so much as you've done, the impact that you've gotten to the city for your district is something that I like to thank you for. And the reason why is that one of our first organizational wins that we worked with Sinead Whitaker-Ross with Reproductive Freedom. And you led that effort. When we first on the ground working on it, I remember the support came from your office with Raphael Johnson and him. And I'd like to thank you for that. That was our first organizational connection win that we have, and thank you for that service that you offer.
You know, Norman, I think we're gonna keep a smile on her face.
Yeah,
she's been smiling all throughout this first little half an hour that we've had with her on the show with us today. And I'm gonna definitely ask you, and I'll extend this invitation on behalf of Watkins Broadcasting and here at the station. We'd love to have you come on again, and the invitation is open to come back on the show.
Well, thank you. Yes, I'll be glad to come back.
But I know that before, or did you want to comment on what Norman was saying, or then, because I want you to kind of still continue to elaborate, because we want to give the shout out to the person who made this happen, and I'll let you, I've segued that into Ms. Robinson, but I'll let you go on.
Yes, I will just say that, legislators, senators, reps, congresspeople can't do their jobs without having a good core team that is behind them, in front of them, beside them. And one of the things I've always told my team is that in the absence of me, you are the senator. So that means you have to conduct yourself as such and communicate, with the community. And one thing I really will say is that, and this is my running joke, if I go on vacation from the office, things will still run and manage properly and accordingly. If they go on vacation, it might not get done. So, but with that said, Andrea and I have had a long-standing friendship. I've known her since Center for Progressive Leadership training with Dave Woodward. That's where Andrea and I first met when I was just a little wife trying to learn what politics was all about. And we have been friends ever since. And Andrea came on board maybe 5 years ago to be a part of our team, and it has been the most wonderful hire I've ever had. She's in the community. She's our district liaison. She is just understands the heart of the community that we represent and is always present. And people know her and just love her and adore her. And that is what anyone could ask for and a team member that is definitely conducting themselves as a senator throughout the district, and I am so grateful for her.
Well, I don't want to get her in any trouble with anybody else on your team, so I'll let you give a shout out to
they
anybody
love
else.
Each other.
Okay, let you give because Kyle called me this morning and was telling me that you were on your way. You were there at the homegoing for Fred Durhal Jr. and was saying, giving me a ETA and everything, and what time you should be here at the station this morning. So I'll let you give a shout out to some of the other staffers that you have.
So and that's the other thing too. I think that, when people are looking for staff, you want people who are definitely high IQ and definitely high performing people, especially because it is so important every day when we're operating in Lansing and throughout the district. And as you see, they were very swift about communicating to you my arrival, and my team is really I've had some great staff in my office, and I will say some people churn through staff like it's like they're going to McDonald's serving Happy Meals. I'm blessed to say that I have had wonderful staff in my office and still have a wonderful core team of people, and we've trained probably 60 interns throughout the course of my time in Lansing that have gone on to do greater things in the governor's office as well as other departments in state government, and it's just been really wonderful. So I'll give a shout out to my core team, Dr. Raphael Johnson, Kyle Walker, as well as Aaron Dickinson, my chief of staff. So thank you all for what you do.
Thank you for what they do as well. But now let's just talk a little bit about now when you were mentioning, beforehand before we went to break.
District,
so I'll
yes.
let you continue to elaborate.
So you asked a little bit about the composition of my district, and so I was just trying to kind of level set around the redistricting process that has occurred, because of the redistricting commission and what have you. Before the redistricting, my district was 64% Detroit, and then I had the full city of Dearborn and also Dearborn Heights and a small portion of Melvindale. Post redistricting, my district is probably like 32% Detroit, and then all of the city of Dearborn Heights and Dearborn is currently. And that's what I represent, and one precinct in Allen Park where the mall is located, and beyond 94. But the district is, still the same makeup. Obviously, we have the most Middle Eastern Americans outside of the Middle East in our district, a concentration of Middle Easterns. We have a very diverse district. I have the most kids between the ages of 0 to 18 in my district. I have the top 3 or 5 poverty zip codes in the state of Michigan as well. When you think about SNAP benefits and how that impacted people, I have the most people on SNAP benefits. We have over 150,000 people who rely on Medicaid in our district. So being the chair of that budget, to me, was the most important thing to take on as a state senator, because quite frankly, our district needs that support. And so that's really important to me, to make sure that my community is thriving and making sure that we are where we need to be as a district, but not, more importantly, the entire state of Michigan is where it needs to be.
So you were saying in terms, say, that the districts that you serve, but then I also want you to also elaborate too about the difference between you as a state rep versus you as a state senator.
Sure. So I served one term in the House, and it was a very interesting term post coming in from my husband being the prior rep. That was very interesting, but I wasn't the only spouse who preceded their husband, so that was always nice. It was about 5 of us in that gang. So,
do you all still kind of connect even?
I would say no. We did. We had our own little caucus,
right?
And that was always nice to catch up, because I think one of the things that people always seem to believe when there's a family circumstance where someone's coming in post their spouse or a relative, that they're going to be just like that person. And so that's always very interesting to see the dynamics in Lansing as well as the district.
Because I can bring up one of your colleagues, Erica Geis.
Yes.
And I know, because I knew before she, ascended in this position, after her husband was in that position. So yes, it definitely happens like that.
Yeah, Senator Geis is my neighbor in the Senate building as well. So yes, our kids grew up together. We know each other very well, and it is a reality that people think that you're going to serve just like your spouse did, but that's not not always true. But I will say that as far as serving as a representative, I had one term in the House, and then there was an open seat. Morris Hood was leaving the Senate, and so it was an opportunity for me to go to the Senate. And at the time, from my perspective, I thought, well, I only got to deal with 37 people. But that's not true either, because you still have to get legislation done through the House. But I think from the variation of the positions, I will say that most people believe that because you are a senator that you have more prestige, that you have the ability to influence you maybe the executor's office a little bit more because, you're a senator, and so the votes are tighter. And there's less of them. And so when you think about the House, there's 110 members. They only need 50, they need a large number of votes, 56 votes out of the House. Out of the Senate, you need 20 votes. And so the conversations become a little different when you need 20 votes for things. And so the influence and the power is obviously something that people see as a way to, and the notoriety of being a senator, that's really important to the position. But here's the reality. When you become a senator, you represent more people as well. And so that's the other aspect of this that sometimes people don't see when they're transitioning from the House to the Senate, is that you are going to represent 250,000 plus people. So in a state where we have 10 million people, you represent a larger body of your district. Before the redistricting, I had 7 representatives that I had to communicate with that overlap with my Senate district. That's a lot of people to communicate with and try to come up with some shared values on what we're going to push and how we're going to make goals happen and appropriations happen for our community. Now with the redistricting, I have three representatives that I overlap with, if that makes sense. So the districts are more condensed, but it's a lot easier to have a conversation with 3 people instead of 7.
Right.
Yes, absolutely. But I think, overall, there's more work. As far as just the expansion of the office, you do have the opportunity to have more people on your staff because you are serving a larger body of the community in the district. And I will say we get the same issues, House and Senate, when it comes to constituency services. Most people, if they can't reach their representative, they will call their senator. And so those things are still the same as far as the job functions itself. But I will say that it's going to be harder to get legislation done through the House because you have more members that you have to talk to. And then in the Senate, it's a conversation, with your colleagues. You just need to talk to 19 other people to say, hey, can you support this? So I think that's where the push-pull comes in. Some people like the House better. I say it's the frat house. It's the the college campus, and everybody's like just having a good old time. But that means that they have to connect with more people, right? They have to push more. In the Senate, I always like to say we're like the PhDs of the world. We sit on our little islands. We have more autonomy to make decisions, and our colleagues are a little bit more amenable to those decisions. But we're the upper chamber. I like to say we're the more mature chamber. But that all depends though, because listen, it all depends on the dynamics of government and the push-pull as far as power goes. Right now, we're a divided government. We have a House of Representatives where we have Republican control, and the Senate is in Democratic control, and that has been a friction there to have further conversations and dialogue about how we move things through the system. And so it's tough. It's not easy when you have divided government, and it is reflective of the need to get back to the majority for the House. So we're going to work on that, y'all. We're going to work on it.
Well, and that's, you brought up in terms about the, with the differences. Now, the senators have a 4-year term?
Yes, that is also a difference. So currently we did restructure the way the House and the Senate work as far as term limits go. Prior to that restructuring, you could serve 3 2-year terms in the House, and you could serve 2 4-year terms in the Senate, which would, if you served out the House and the Senate, that would have been a 14 years total. So if you had kids like I did before I got to the legislature, they would be graduated from high school by the time we're done, under the other term limits. But because what I think that we all recognize in government was that by the time you finish those 6 years in the House, there's only 38 senators that, in the state of Michigan. So if there's not a natural opening for you to transition into the Senate, then you're done with your career in the legislature, because there's term limits, which I think the vote should be the term limit personally. But I believe that because of that, we thought that, as a collective, as a community, that 12 years or 12 years and 12 years would be better. So that means that a senator currently can serve 3 4-year terms if they start off in the Senate. And then for this House, it's the same thing. You could serve 12 years. And the goal behind that was to make sure that, one, we continue to have good people in government that want to work in this space and continue to support policy and agenda for the state of Michigan. And also, the 6 years was not long enough. By the time you learn where the bathrooms are in Lansing, it's time to go.
Right.
And so that was not, I think, conducive for the state. Prior to term limits, you have folks serving, 18 to 20 years, but the average person, even prior to term limits, would only serve about 12 years. And so that, if you go back and look at the records, most people on average would serve 12 years, whether it be the House or the Senate, pre-term limits.
Well, see, I'm glad that you're kind of clearing that area, because I still know people that think that there's certain representatives that are term limited out, and they've only done 3 2-year terms. And I'm telling folks, no, you could do 6 2-year terms?
Yes.
Is that what I'm understanding you to say?
That is correct. So 12 years now. So you could, ideally, if people who had served in prior legislatures that were termed out at the 6 years, they could come back for another 6 years now under the new term limits.
So if a person, let's say, for example, then did a term for state senate, and that person hypothetically did not win re-election, that person could still come back and then run and then hopefully serve another 2 4-year terms.
Yes, that is correct.
Interesting. Because I think a lot of people are really kind of confused with that whole thing. And like you said, you've lost 2 years, from 14 down to 12 years now. And I think that when looking at, there were some great legislators that were termed out that had to kind of, people were like, wow, we still wanted some more time with them in the legislature.
Sure.
And then when they got termed out, it's like, oh, wow. But some of them could not win that seat if they wanted to go and ascend to running for state senate.
Right.
Because of the congestion of other people that wanted to run for that same, state senate seat.
Yeah.
Unlike you.
Right.
Because it was different with you, because
it was
when,
like
you said, with Morris Hood, that was a totally different scenario. Is it, and I'm going to let you ask the next question, Norman, but question, and I'm going to ask a kind of a strange question, and don't look at me strangely when I ask this question. Is it easier to run against an incumbent or run in an open seat? Against, where the seat is open?
Well, I will say this. If the incumbent is doing their job well, then it should not be easy to run against them. But if they have, not shown up in the community and they don't have a pulse for the community, then it typically could potentially be easy to run against them and win. And that goes to the point that people become, unfortunately, sometimes people become complacent in their role as legislators. And I'm saying that publicly. Not all legislators are created equal. And so that is a possibility that if they're not doing their due diligence in a district, then yes, it is a possibility that somebody could come in and run against them and win. It probably will be difficult from the just the infrastructure standpoint, as far as like just perhaps the culture in Lansing and other places, because they know this person is an incumbent, and they have a relationship with them, and they have to work with them as, you know, their lobbyists or clients have to work with them and things of that nature. But when it comes to the heart of the community is going to decide who they want to hire and fire. People have to remember, you work for the people. So if your performance evaluations aren't good, if, you know, you're not doing your job, then yeah, it's easy for people to come in and, you know, potentially run against you and win. Yeah. And that all depends on the political environment as well, because we seen where during COVID, you know, things were shut down. You have folks come in and who came to the Capitol protesting, or because they couldn't give haircuts anymore at the salons, and people like that got voted into the legislature because of the environment and the culture at the time dictated such that people wanted to get people out of government who they felt were not allowing them to have open government during COVID. So there's a lot to be said about the process. It's a science. However, there's still all these other components that might or levers, if you will, that can pull things. So it could be a number of things, but you have to do your due diligence. You have to, you know, work hard to continue to have this job, and that's why it's called public service.
Yep, and that's the interesting point that you brought up, is that, you know, I always, with term limits, I always said that, you know, it leads to knee-jerk legislation. Because a lot of times folks come there to run for office because somebody's not running, it's an open seat, I'm going to run. But do you know the community? Do you know the politics? Do you know how the government works? Do you know how this seat works? And so sometimes that has led to bad policies that we talked about. I think years ago, I think the other policies that were punished us was it used to be the driver responsibility law. And I think y'all for getting rid of that, because that's
You're
law.
welcome.
Thank
You're so welcome.
Because as a young driver, we were punished because if I got a ticket for driving, I got a ticket, but I also got a $500 responsibility fee. If I don't have my insurance was done on time, and Michigan had the highest, Detroit had the highest insurance rate. My insurance rate was higher than my car note. I don't have that. On top of that, it's 2 driver responsibility fees. So it hampered citizens in the city of Detroit. That led to folks not being there, didn't know this knee-jerk legislation. Now, thank you for that. I also wanted to ask about far as folks running in open seats, because I think that's a question, especially now that some folks are term limit, to really talk to people that are looking to run for state senator. What does it really take in this climate right now, as you see, to really run and win in that seat, and not just targeted precincts, but really run and actually win the seat?
So I'll answer. Well, I'm going to level set too, because I think that, you know, one of the things that I always hear, especially around the Detroit community, is like back in the day, you know, we had you had to kind of get the blessing of the community, especially Bart McFarland, to be able to even run for office. Like, you know, oh, it's not your turn. We're going to put you over here for right now. And then, you know, if something comes up, we'll run you. I will say that culture is no longer. I mean, because like I look at even like from the standpoint of when my husband ran, we were based in a community. We were already a part of the community as far as like the association, working within the district, helping to revitalize Rouge Park, things of that nature. We were already infused into the community as residents.
Right.
And so, and also the community, we had a lot of community associations, so we participated and were a part of the community before ever considering a run for office. And I think that's really important to individuals who are even considering a run in an open seat, that they're already a part of that community as well. Absolutely. And understand the fabric of what's there. Far too often you have people who are carpetbagging, moving into districts to run, especially in our city. We've seen that, but turned out okay. No, I'm not digging, but anyway, but the thing is the reality is that I think people should come from that community and that district because you live there. People can drive down Bray Street and they know my house is there, and I'm not living anywhere else. And I think that's really important as well to be a part of the district. And your other question was around, is it hard to run in an open seat? The reality is that no matter what, you're job interviewing, right?
Absolutely.
You are job interviewing with the people, and they want to know, is this person going to go to Lansing and work on my behalf? Or are they going to be the right fit for the community? And so that's really important. And sometimes I think we get caught up in establishment politics. Oh, well, they've been here and they're just, we know them. And the familiarity often is, to me personally, that sometimes familiarity doesn't breed good public policy either.
You're right.
It breeds status quo.
Absolutely.
And we do not need status quo in Lansing. I mean, honestly, that is probably one of the things that I think we can do a lot better. As a community and as policymakers, status quo doesn't always work to being a disruptor to the system, but also to getting good public policy made. Driver's responsibility fees, you brought that up, right?
Right.
So I'll just give you the backdrop of that. That was literally a common sense conversation. Okay, we're penalizing people for not having insurance or for OWIs or what have you, and you're telling them to go to work to pay these fees, but how are they supposed to get to work, right?
Right.
Okay, so now you want them to drive dirty to work, right? And so the conversation was, because at the time this was Governor Snyder, I said, Governor, you an accountant, I'm a finance person. If we keep having people pay driver's responsibility fees and you don't see any uptick on the roll, or as far as like the books are still in red, you're asking 300,000 people in the state of Michigan to pay driver's responsibility fees, but yet the fees are not being paid because they're not being able to go to work to pay the fees. So this makes no sense. So how can we make this better? Let's get rid of this and reconsider how we're thinking about how we're supporting the people of Michigan, because this has an adverse effect to mobility, right, to job creation, to economic sustainability in the state. So we got rid of it, which was the right thing to do. But then I think with that said, then there was more local control over those situations, which is probably better because at least there is a community-based conversation with the local law enforcement agency, with the judges, and that made more sense than having it at the state level. But the whole premise behind that bill was to get people to stop drunk driving.
Right.
And so it made sense at the time. But again, back to your point about making policy that's jerk, that was based off of a situation where somebody, there was a drunk driving situation. So the intent of the policy was good at the time, but it also didn't lend itself to really supporting, I think, what the overall mission was, which is to try to get people to reduce the drunk driving piece of it. So
thank you for that. And I think that is something that Truth to Power shows. You come on the show breaking down common sense, but also the most important thing you said was you guys were in the community first. And that is so important to be a part of neighborhood block clubs, showing up. But showing up when people just show up just to show up. People not asking for nothing. Oh, you here? Oh, okay. She's here. Great. Let's sit down and have a conversation. Mm-hmm. I think that is so important with elected officials doing that. But also, I think in this climate right now, I think more and more people want that every single day. I could express how many times with the Sheffield ran her campaign. She ran for 3 years, I say, because she was in the community, showing up, being there, not wanting anything, just saying, hey, how can I help? Or I'm here to support whatever you guys are doing. Mm-hmm. And that buy-in at the long time is really, really, really important for the work that folks that want to do this work or folks that are doing the work already have aspirations to run for office.
And you're right. And we got to take another break.
Oh, sorry.
So we're going to take another quick break. We will be right back with the Honorable State Senator Sylvia Santana. And when we come back, we'll let her address the question you're about to ask. And then also, what I'd like to do too, State Senator, is to kind of find out, what are you most proud of in all the years that you've been serving in Lansing, not just as a state senator, but also as a state rep. And then, you know, with this last year of your term, what are some of your objectives for the upcoming 2026?
All right.
We'll be right back. I can't say enough how pleasured we are to have the Honorable State Senator Sylvia Santana on the show with us today. Stay tuned.
From the desk of RJ Watkins, this is a WHPR editorial.
I'm Ariana Watkins, and for decades, my father, RJ Watkins, has served our community with quality radio and TV service through WHPR and Roku. Today, I'm proud to stand beside him, continuing the legacy built on trust, innovation, and your support. We're here because of you, and we'll keep bringing you the best now and for generations to come. Thank you for supporting us and growing with us.
This has been a WHPR editorial.
Clean up on aisle 5. Sounds like my life right now. Just one big mess.
What's going on?
It's my property taxes.
What?
I am behind, and I am so worried that I'm going to lose my house. I can pay some of it, but I can't pay it all at once.
Sorry to interrupt. I'm Eric Sabri, the Wayne County Treasurer. The last thing I want is for anyone to lose their property to tax foreclosure. We have assistance programs to help.
For more information, go to treasurer.waynecounty.com.
We're here to help. I'm Wayne County Treasurer Eric Sabri. If you're behind on your property taxes, we have programs to help. You don't have to lose your house, and you don't have to pay all at once. This summer, our mobile unit will be visiting Wayne County communities to help make it easier to start a payment plan and keep your property. Go online or call to find the plan that's right for you and where you can get help from our mobile unit. The last thing I want is for anyone to lose their property to foreclosure. Make your payments every month and keep your property.
I'm RJ Watkins.
And I'm HT Henry Tyler. We're moving to WGPR
107.5 HD3. Not only can you hear us,
you can see us. 107.5 FM, WGPR HD3, RadioWeCanSee.com.
Justice for Mario Willis. Truth. Facts. Evidence. Mattered. Log into justiceformariowillis.com. Read for yourself.
Hi, I'm Maxine Willis, Community Affairs Director here at WHPR TV, wishing you and your family a happy, healthy, safe, and blessed holiday season.
WGPR Detroit HD3.
You're watching WHPS, Highland Park, Detroit.
Fun having our little conversation during this time that we've been taking the break. But as you see, we are very, very pleased to have the State Senator Sylvia Santana on the show with us today. And Norman Clement, my co-host from Detroit Change Initiative. But I want to ask you a question too, and then we'll kind of get into a little bit more detail about, accomplishments and things that you've done that you're most proud of. But I want to touch base back. It was mentioned in terms of, say, about the unrest that happened up there at the Capitol years ago, when people came with assault rifles and things.
Oh, yeah.
But and I don't want to bring back a bad time, but I just want to bring back, that did happen. Mm-hmm. And I just want to find out from you, State Senator, how did that affect you?
Yes, April 30th, 2020. Remember the day like it was yesterday. We always, let me just kind of level set, I think, because this is important too. In the country, we had seen where schools were getting shot up a lot, and, just people were coming in, and I believe Florida had happened at the time, Parkland. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that, in my heart, I thought was important is just making sure that we had metal detectors at the Capitol. And at the time, we had probably 50% of the country that actually had metal detectors at their capitals. Obviously, we were not one of them. Mm-hmm. And so this conversation started when I was a rep. We had Officer Brian Fountain come up and do a training, the active shooter training for staff and others. Because at the time you could just see the trajectory of where things were going, as far as just public safety in general. And I think that, state and school buildings and other buildings were just, vulnerable to, perhaps any type of mass shooting. So we were already having this discussion before 2020 even occurred. Mm-hmm. COVID hit, as you know. And people, this was all new for all of us, and it was the 100-year, pandemic, and so it impacted a lot of people negatively, and because of that, businesses were impacted, and we were all impacted by COVID, and so back in 2020, back in 2020, at the time, we were still coming to work. During this time or what have you. And we usually have a open carry day at the Capitol, mm-hmm. where we allow for people to come in and open carry. One of the things that's really important is making sure that leadership, if Senate Majority Leader or the Speaker of the House, their job is to manage and oversee all the employees in state government, or at least in the chambers. And so at that time, we had some challenging legislation that was up, and it was an unnerving. People were already on edge and in the Capitol, and so my husband, to his credit, was just like, "Look, you need to take this bulletproof vest to work," and so I took a bulletproof vest to work, and we had to go back into chambers. We were in the minority at the time. And we were being pressured to vote for legislation that wasn't something that we, supported as Democrats. And so between all of the pressures of legislation being forced on us to vote for, and in addition to those individuals being in the gallery with their guns, it was a lot. And to me, when you're in that space of the chambers, it feels like a fishbowl. Because the general public sits up at the top. Mm-hmm. We have sergeants in the space for our safety and public safety, but there's not enough of them mm-hmm. to protect all of us. But they do their jobs very well. Let me be clear. And so I just felt the need to put my vest on. If I'm going to be in here and feel unrest, then I'm going to at least feel protected, because when you got long gone, people with their rifles, long gone guns in the gallery, and you're sitting down there trying to make a sound decision on policy or oppose policy, it was a lot that day. That unfortunately went viral across the world. Mm-hmm. That moment of me putting on that bulletproof vest, and life has not been the same since. Yeah. I will say that. But what I am most happy about is that our Capitol now has protections. We care more about the people who come in the Capitol instead of the paintings on the wall, which is very important.
Yep.
So we're worried about protecting the people and the public safety in the spaces. And I think it was timely. It was something that was necessary. That wasn't the reason 2020 happened, but moving into that, we had seen where, situations that happened at judges' homes, and Minnesota happened, post all of these occurrences. And, during COVID, it just, a lot of people were at a pause, but you saw a lot of violence and domestic violence during that time as well. And so I think it's incumbent upon us as elected officials to make sure that we're protecting the public, and that spaces where schools and people are entering a public safety space or spaces should be safe. I saw it in my district happen at the 6th precinct, where someone came in and shot the place up, if you recall. So this is not something that is unfamiliar to us, but we don't want it to become something where we're just numb to it and just allowing it to occur. And we just keep moving forward as a society and not dealing with the issues as they occur. So for me, 2020 was very interesting. There was an interesting year because we were on pause, but I also received Legislator of the Year that year as well from Mears and Gangwer, or Mears. And, it was an interesting time in our lives, and I'm grateful for it as an elected official. But I also know that because of, that happening, that we've done a lot of moves and decisions in the Capitol and across the state to make sure that people are safe. So that's important.
So when you say you got Legislator of the Year, right?
Yes.
So did you know that you were going to receive that honor?
I did not. In life, I think there's, you have good days and bad days, and, sometimes it kind of balances out. That happened in December 2020. But I do believe that was one of my most productive years in the legislature as far as policy goes, and just moving a needle. And so I think, just on different things that we were running as far as policy overall. And so I think it was just an important year, whether it be good and bad.
Okay.
Yeah.
No.
If that makes sense.
Yeah. So thinking about 2020, you spark up some memories, because I was watching on TV what's going on in Michigan at that time. We were watching it on TV while we were trying to get the meal boxes out, doing meal giveaways, getting the food out to the people, and you were looking at this like, what's going on in the state of Michigan? Like, all these people coming with guns and stuff. So during this recollection at that time, you realize that a lot of our folks got caught up and swamped into that deep, when you're sitting still, you're losing, your businesses failing, but also that mental health aspect triggers. A lot of us are always in it from the close on the edge. My wife jokes all the time, says some people are lucky that I have a mortgage, because I'll, I'll go crazy if I was in the street. You know what I'm saying? So during that time, you realize that folks really need help in a bad way, and then get caught up in the echo chambers of violence, but also, bots and all that stuff going on during that election time. And so during that 2020 season, after in December, I wonder what was your recollection going into 2021? Going into 2021, what was your accomplishments that you looked at? How you assist your focus for 2021 and 2022?
What's interesting, 2019, December 2019, before we knew what COVID was, and I had planned out my entire 2020. I had the calendar planned out. I'm like, okay, we're going to attack these, legislative policies. We're going to work and focus on budget in this area. And the world stopped right in March. And, it was one of those aha moments, God, we playing, God laughs. It was one of those type of moments. But going into 2021, I think as human beings, we are resilient, but we also are innovative. And so I think what was most important is just how do we continue to connect to our communities? How do we continue to bring a message to our districts about what we're doing, even though the world is shut down? And so I think, I've spent a lot of time on my back patio doing Zoom calls with my constituents, my district, just trying to make sure that people were heard. Andrea working on UIA benefits for all of, the people who were out of work. Those were the moments where you really saw where people come together. And I think that's important to remember as a fabric of America is that, in times of tragedy or we come together. 9/11 is a prime example of that, where we come together. And so that's why I get really upset when I see where we are in the divisiveness right now in this country, just over the haves and the have-nots, and the attempts to to eliminate or to erase the history of this country. And I think that's really important to remember that in times of tragedy, we come together as a nation, and we don't look at, oh, you black, you white, you this, you that. That's not even a conversation. And so I think that as a people and as a society, as long as we continue to lead with that in mind, that we are human beings at the end of the day, and we are the human race instead of you're this race, you look this way, you look that way, I think that we can do a lot more benefits to us as a whole than where we are today in this divisiveness that we see. So I don't, that's just a burning thought that was on my mind. But going into 2021, it was a matter of how do we continue to execute on making sure that we are providing the support and resources to the people and getting things to the finish line that we needed to. And to Governor Whitmer's credit at the time, we did a lot of executive directives. We made sure that, that there was no barriers to entry, whether it be for healthcare or what have you. And I think that was really important as well. And that also lended itself to being able to, when you talk about disruptions, that also lended itself to why are we still trying to do it this way when we just had this major ordeal happen, and we know that from a regulation standpoint, we can be swifter in a way that we provide health care or we provide access to care. So that's the silver lining in the pandemic, is that we were able to move policy and make better decisions for healthcare access because of the pandemic happening. And so that's where I think that's the beauty of it all.
Because the reason why I was saying that, because I saw the groundwork for which is work that you did in 2021 and 2022.
You probably wrote my record better.
Yeah. Because in 2023, you guys did so much did the work that it seemed like it started from 2021 where, okay, we know we need to do this shift. And you saw fruition in 2023 when you got all three chambers. Y'all were like, go.
Yeah.
And everything's already laid in the plan.
I think so. Leading up for 2020 happening, obviously leading up to that, we had a colleague wear a Confederate flag or Confederate mask on the floor. His wife made it from whatever. That occurred, and from there it was, typically, and to your point about senators and reps, we both speak on the floor, but senators have the discretion to speak daily. And Senator Geis and I told Senator Geis, I said, you know what? Typically, we give a speech, we would just, hone in on, the issue at the time, and then we would just let it go. I said, Erica, or Senator Geis, sorry. I said, we need to speak every week, every single week. We need to hone in on something and hone in on just the divisiveness, or hone in on the racism and the hatred and the visceral of it. We just need to hone in on these issues. And so we began to do that as a caucus. And so they saw that her and I were not coming off of our square. And so the caucus got on board too. They like, oh, well, we need to start getting up and speaking. And so you've seen speech after speech after speech given to really put a message out there to our colleagues that this is not okay. And so that went from, us giving speeches, Senator Mallory Romero giving her speech, and just really as a caucus standing together, unified to say, this is not how we want to do things in Michigan. Right. And, that became ballot initiatives around reproductive health and making sure that women have access to, reproductive health and having their own choices for their bodies. That became a big ballot initiative. And you've seen where those situations help to align us as a whole to make better decisions moving forward, and it helped us to propel us to a majority and a trifecta.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that work was so much needed, and especially and then in 21, work was done at the ground level. So I just see those trajectories that happened in 23. They passed a lot. Y'all were working day and night with the reps. I talked to Donovan McKinney. He was like, man, I'm still at work. I was like, oh, you're still busy, huh? So those are just great things.
Yeah. And I think, I think I'm going to speak just as Democrats, we need to get back to our core values as Democrats, and also making sure that we are listening to the communities and what I said before, making sure that we are meeting the needs of our communities and listen to the heart of our communities. And we can't have these facets of Democratic Party because that's what other people do. They got the Tea Party. We can't do that as Democrats. We have to stick to, and I'm speaking as a Democrat, we have to stick to our core mission, which is making sure that we have a middle class, that people have access to good paying jobs, that healthcare is not an option, but it is something that we provide for everybody. That people can pay their freaking bills, they can pay their water bill, their energy bills. Those are all really important things. How do we keep moving people towards becoming, have that upward mobility and have the ability to take care of their families? There's no reason why people should be homeless in this country. Like, if we are really the country of the first, what we tout ourselves on being the best, but we're not taking care of the people who we need to be taken care of so that they can have upward mobility, so that they can be able to have the mental health services that they need. Those are all really relevant things. We shouldn't have generations of people who are couch hopping.
Right.
That's not acceptable in this country. And people need to pay their fair taxes.
Yeah.
Like, that is true. You can't have it both ways. You can't ask for corporate incentives, but then also don't want to pay your taxes on the back end to support the very needs of the people in the communities or poor people. But then the people who are middle class are paying the larger share of the taxes in the country. That is not acceptable, and they know it. Yeah. And we need to change it.
And that's something too, that because we try and be as educational and as informative on Truth to Power as we can, we know that there's a Speaker of the House. We know that there's a Senate Majority Leader. Can you tell our viewing audience, how do you determine who that Senate Majority Leader will be?
So, when those are all decisions that are made by the city members, and obviously there's obviously politics and everything, but those are all decisions that are made post the election. And so usually the majority party will vote for their Senate Majority Leader and their Speaker. I think, and you've seen who we have. And so I believe that those decisions also come on the back of the campaign cycle. If they win, strategy-wise, did they do a good job? Those are all things that are probably, decided based off that. But also I think there's influence, especially when we have term limits and you have the infrastructure of lobby corps, not just in Michigan, but in D.C. as well, that have strong ties. Those decisions also get supported by their influence as well.
Yeah, because I think that's Winnie Binks.
Briggs, yep.
Okay.
From Grand Rapids.
So what primarily then is her responsibility with you and the other senators?
So Winnie oversees the Senate, but she also oversees all the staff in the Senate as well as the Senate Budget Office and throughout the state, or throughout the legislature. but it's in our caucus. And so a lot of, she obviously has meetings across the state of Michigan. But more importantly, she's responsible for being a leader of our caucus and helping to support and decide on an agenda for our caucus, and with our collaboration as well. But she has to move the needle on votes and legislation and policy. Obviously we are, 3 co-equal branches of government: the executive office, the legislature, and the Senate. But definitely her role is to make sure that that we, as senators as well as legislators in general, that we're pushing the needle for our constituency, and that there's real good, healthy checks and balances between all 3 branches of government, as well as with the speaker and the governor's office.
So now, what are some of your committees that you either sit on or that you chair?
Sure. So I chair several committees. That's one thing too. I never thought in my wildest dreams that I would get all the committees that I wanted and vice chair them. But I was very honored to serve on 12 committees.
Wow.
When we took majority. The biggest one being the Health and Human Service budget as the chair, which I told you I have the most constituency on Medicaid. I have, SNAP benefits, most kids between 0 and 18, top poverty zip codes. And to me, that was the most important budget for me to serve on as the chair. And there was a lot of politics behind that as well, because I had served on that budget from the time I got to the legislature. So I've been a part of the DHHS budget for 8 years. So it just made natural sense for me to be in that position. But I will say this as well. That's 50% of the state budget. So when you think about, and that the Health and Human Service budget is around $37 billion. I said billion. 50, most of that is pass-through money from the federal government to the local municipalities. And so there's a lot that goes into that budget, because that budget is from birth to earth. So when you think about Health and Human Services, there is so much that is encompassing of that budget. We have over 15,000 employees in the state of Michigan that are within that department. When you think about grantees and recipients that help to support that budget, we have over 480 plus nonprofits and agencies that touch that budget. Yes, it's a lot, but I think the real important thing to know is that, yes, it is 50% of the state budget. And when you have the federal government talking about a reduction to those dollars, it gets very scary. Because you're thinking about lives. If that budget goes reduction, goes to under a certain amount, you're killing people at that point. Right. And that's why it's really important to me that I'm there. That's one of the budgets that I sit on as a chair. I also sit on health policy as the vice chair for that budget, which that's just as important as Health and Human Services, because we're talking about access to health care. And so a lot of decisions that get made out of that budget are reflective of healthcare needs. And so that's really important to me. The other big budget that I'll say that I sit on that is really important is our criminal justice and judiciary budget. MDOC, Michigan Department of Corrections, as well as our judicial decisions get made out of that budget as well. And that's really important also, because we have 1 in 6 people in the state of Michigan with a felony on their record, and 1 in 3 in the heart of Detroit. And to me, I always say that corrections is one of those issues where, if done right, if rehabilitation in the state of Michigan is done right, people will not recidivate, and they will be able to move forward in their lives post their offense. And so that's one of those things where I like to work on that, in the heart of that budget. And I never thought that I would be working in that space. And I tell people, both my parents, I love them dearly. My father was a veteran. He had opioid addiction coming out of the war, always recidivating back into the correction system. And so for me, this is a mission of redemptive suffering, so to speak, where God put me in that position to be able to work on these issues, even though that was not something that I went to Lansing to do.
Right.
But I think it's important to be able to work on issues that matter in this way, in this capacity, because Michigan, when you look at how many people we incarcerate and with truth in sentencing in our state, we're right under the federal government when it comes to how many people we lock up in our state. And so we're like literally numbers wise, we're there. So you got, you have a significant amount of people, about 10,000 people coming back to communities each and every year. And so how those individuals, what wraparound services they receive and how they propel into or how they, integrate back into the community is important for their success not to recidivate. We pay $42,000 a year per inmate now, and that number has gone up even since I've been in the legislature. And to me, I always believe that if we take that money and put that resource into the education system and making sure that our kiddos don't end up in the correction system, we will be doing ourselves a better service as a state. So that's really important to me. But those are some of the big committees that I sit on and that kind of drive my mission as a senator. So health policy, the Department of Health and Human Services appropriations, and then corrections and judiciary. Yeah.
So those committees, is that something that let's say, is that something that Senator Binks, is that something that she assigns you to?
Yes. So we actually, when you negotiate for even your seat on the Senate floor, which I didn't know that when you can negotiate for where you sit on the floor, I would have chose differently. I would be the kid in the middle. But anyway, but it's okay. I will say that that's something you negotiate for. And one of the things that I intentionally thought was, I know I love to crunch numbers because I'm a finance person, and that's important and relevant to this process. But I also said and this is why I have 12 committees, the policy is just as important as the appropriation side. Where the money goes is just as important how they push the policy. And if you don't know both, of course you're going to know both, but I believe that is very reflective of like where you put the money. It dictates how things go on the policy side. Exactly. And from a structural standpoint and systemically, that may not always turn out for people that look like us. And so to me, it was really important to make sure that I looked at both lenses of the process, the policy and the appropriations. And it has been really interesting to manage all of that as a senator. But I will say that it has been the most rewarding journey of my career as a senator. And that's
something we got to take one more break. And when we come back, we want to find out what has been the most rewarding in your role as an elected official or as a public servant. And that's the question I want to ask you too when we come back. Okay. Do you more so are you more so recognized as a public servant or as an elected official? We're going to take another break. We'll be right back. We are so honored to have State Senator Sylvia Santana on with us, Norman. And when we come back, we're going to continue to have Truth to Power with State Senator Sylvia Santana. We'll be right back.
Hey, I'm the new girl at WHPR, Kimberly Clemens, the host of Chats and Chuckles. Tune in on Tuesdays, 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. Chats and Chuckles. I am here to bring life to the chatter that matters.
I'm Wayne County Treasurer Eric Sabri. If you're behind on your property taxes, we have programs to help. You don't have to lose your house, and you don't have to pay all at once. This summer, our mobile unit will be visiting Wayne County communities to help make it easier to start a payment plan and keep your property. Go online or call to find the plan that's right for you and where you can get help from our mobile unit. The last thing I want is for anyone to lose their property to foreclosure. Make your payments every month and keep your property.
Every Monday through Friday from 12 noon to 3 p.m., it's the Tavis Smiley Show on WHPR TV and Radio 15.2. Also seen on Roku, Fire Stick, Apple TV, iPhone, and Android. That's the Tavis Smiley Show on WHPR TV and Radio. Download the WHPR TV app for iOS, Android, and Roku. The Tavis Smiley Show, distributed by RJ Watkins Studios.
Clean up on aisle 5. Sounds like my life right now. Just one big mess.
What's going on?
It's my property taxes.
What?
I am behind and I am so worried that I'm gonna lose my house. I can pay some of it, but I can't pay it all at once.
Sorry to interrupt. I'm Eric Sabri, the Wayne County Treasurer. The last thing I want is for anyone to lose their property to tax foreclosure. We have assistance programs to help.
For more information, go to treasurer.waynecounty.com.
We're here to help.
Feel good about your future with tuition-free programs at Wayne County Community College District. Whether you want to be in healthcare, computer science, the culinary arts, digital media, or robotics and automation for the next generation of vehicles, WCCCD has you covered. A full range of programs to achieve your goals, fit your schedule, and give you all the support you need to be successful. All of it tuition-free. Now there's something to feel good about. Register today at wcccd.edu.
Justice for Mario Willis. Truth. Facts. Evidence. Mattered. Log into justiceformariowillis.com. Read for yourself.
All media platforms are engaged. Copy. Get ready to launch your show or product. Periscope ready. We're 5x5 ready to launch. Copy that. Trend worldwide across all major platforms.
Ignition. 3, 2, 1.
The world is waiting. Watkins Broadcasting. More than just TV.
Hi, I'm RJ Watkins, CEO of WHPR TV and Radio, wishing you and yours happy holidays.
Happy holidays to you.
The Watkins and Tyler families here at TV 33 would like to wish you and your family season's greetings.
313watkins.com. Streaming on Roku.
State Senator Sylvia Santana on Truth to Power. I'm your host, Darwin Griffin, with Norman Clement from Detroit Change Initiative. And we just want to kind of, just look at the time that you've been, serving as a legislator up in Lansing. But Norman, I'll let you kind of delve into that first part of the conversation with State Senator.
Yeah, you were talking with us about the health care that you chair and other chairs you talked about with the seats you sit on. I want to talk about the criminal justice reform bills, the CVI bills that you were very, very epicenter for, especially income violence, Michigan, school safety. Mm-hmm. Talk about those bills, about what it took to get there.
Yeah, so I will just start, I think we've run a lot of policy in the last 15 years around reshaping the criminal justice reform system, and that started really under conservative leadership, right? So Republican leadership in the legislature, and so we've been able to really move the needle, whether it be raise the age, for example. The task force, pretrial incarceration task force, while we locking people up before they have their due process or their day in court. those are the things that really have shaped the way we do things here in the state of Michigan, that have really been very helpful, whether it be the juvenile system, looking at how we can restructure the juvenile system to make sure that we have more community-based corrections versus locking kids up unnecessarily when they may have just done a minor offense at home. Those are the things that I think have really been really relevant. And then from a systemic standpoint, looking at, as I mentioned before, what has been a barrier to entry for individuals, whether it be looking at, LARA and licenses and regulatory affairs. Okay, I want to become a barber, but I can't get the license because I have this felony on my record. How can we make those things easier for those individuals who are coming back to our society? I want to, say that the Michigan Department of Corrections has done a great job as well to bridge the gap for job placement when people are returning back to home. So they've been able to work with, just corporations or different organizations to make sure that people, while they're on the inside, are able to, learn job skills, whether it be the tree trimming program with DTE,
right.
Which is right in the heart of my district at Rouge Park. That's a $56 an hour job. So if I'm coming home from, my time away in incarceration and I'm able to train with DTE and get this job, tree trimming, that's a wonderful way for me to take care of my family. IBEW, same thing, electrician program at Parnell Prison, being able to work with them to make sure that those people that are in for 1 to 2 years in MDOC are able to get those skill sets. They have a culinary program. These are all things that we've been able to push in the process or in the MDOC infrastructure to make sure that people can come home and have opportunities. And so in Calvin College, we even have people who are getting their degrees while they're incarcerated. And I think those are all things that are really relevant to making sure that our economy, continues to thrive. And so the second part of that is making sure that corporations, when people do return home, have the ability to get a job opportunity. And we're not hindering them or putting a scarlet letter back on their chest that says they have a felony. But what are these skills that they received while they were incarcerated that we can transition back into the mainstream and making sure that people have that job opportunity so that they don't recidivate, which is what is really important. I'd rather give you a job, make you a taxpayer, and have you to get, be able to sustain your family, have upward mobility, than to keep paying $42,000 a year to keep you incarcerated or recidivating back into the system because we are not giving you a fair shake when you get out of the system. That doesn't make sense to me. Those dollars don't add up.
Now, you've served a total of how many years up in Lansing?
So I have served 1 term in the House, so that's 2 years, and I am on year number 9 now. And so by the time I'm done next year, when I leave in at December 31st of 2026, it'll be 10 years total.
Wow. So now, talk about the accomplishments that you've had in those 10 years.
Wow.
That you served. I mean, that's a long time.
That's a long time. Huh?
Yes, we have I need to go get the list out of your office over there. We've accomplished. I will say that it takes a team of people, and nothing happens in silos. But I will say that I have been able, from the public safety standpoint, been able to be a lot of a great parts of wonderful task force, whether it be the juvenile task force, like I said, the pretrial incarceration task force as well. I was on the sentencing guidelines task force also, making sure that judges have a true grid of how to make decisions on how long they're incarcerating people, which is also a workaround truth and sentencing, but we're not going to say that. No, but those are all things that, I think that were really relevant at the time. When it comes to policy decisions, from a healthcare standpoint, we've been able to lessen the barriers to entry, whether it be making sure that physical therapists don't have to if they are working from different states, that they're able to do that work in Michigan, and also, they might go to Indiana or somewhere else. They can work, in various states without having to reapply for a licensure. That's important. During COVID, we saw where, people were getting vaccines, and so access to your flu shots and things of that nature, that's really important. So now pharmacists can provide those. It's actually a reduction in cost to the insurance companies, because now people don't have to go to their primary care to get their vaccinations. They can get them right at their pharmacy. I think those are really important things. There's the community violence intervention funding. We've been able to make sure that people who work in the community, who are part of the community, can partner alongside our law enforcement to make sure that we're reducing crime in our communities, which has really been very helpful.
Very helpful.
We've been able to expand the Public Safety Trust Fund to make sure that there's also dollars that extend into the community to help continue to support those works as far as public safety and CVI. Those are all things that are really relevant to the body of work. I've done so much. And, to your point, Darwin, I will say this. My staff looks at me, they're like, Senator, you've accomplished so much, and yet you don't take time to just smell the roses. And so it's been really great. I think the biggest thing that we've been able to do is move the needle on maternal health. When you think about the city of Detroit and how many moms were not making their actual birth date for their child, 1 in 6 women in a city, or we had the highest infant maternal deaths in the country, in Detroit. So being able to move the needle on providing resources into the community was really important, to making sure that those moms have the medicines that they need, or vitamins, their prenatal vitamins, that they have the conversations around taking care of themselves while they're pregnant and beyond that, and that child. So those are all things that are really important. I remember there was a time in Pontiac where they wouldn't let you leave the hospital if you didn't have a car seat. Mm-hmm. So we've been able to move the needle on making sure that car seats exist, for those children to be able to be transported home with their moms. Yep. And there's no trauma there where the kid has to stay, and most of them were catching the bus. So what is it? Anyway, that's a whole thing. Diapers. That's been a resource that definitely I'm very proud of, that we were able to put into our budget. You'd be surprised with cash assistance being limited in our state from prior administrations, where they only allow for you to have cash assistance for 4 years. That's a barrier for a lot of people. And so diapers are expensive. They're not cheap. And so being able to provide that resource in the communities is really important. Even adult diapers, just as important. And so my colleague from the UP, Scott Deanda, when we were in the house, he always used to say, the babies need the diaper, Sylvia, from the UP to Detroit. And so, that was one of the things that we were able to do, is provide that resource for the community. Diabetes needles, that's another thing. Our folks who had diabetes were sharing needles in the community, and that's something that is not, because diabetic medication is not cheap, and so we were able to provide those resources. Access to healthcare is really important. You talked a little bit about auto insurance costs, and in the heart of our community, sometimes people don't have access to vehicles, or they don't drive, and so getting to a healthcare facility is not always easy to do. And so just having primary care and not having that absorbent cost in the ER, because they're not going into, they're actually really not well off, was really important. Being able to make sure that people are healthy is important. So we put in money for the mobile dental units. When I was knocking doors in the district, I'm like, people need dental care. That was one of the things that I noticed right away as a candidate. And I said, we got to get people, because dental care is health care. If your teeth are not, if you're not doing well with your oral care, everything else is impacted by that. And so we put money in the budgets for mobile units to make sure that, they could go out into a community and provide cleanings. Our kiddos, eye care, a lot of kids go to school and they don't realize, they can't see the board or they can't read. And it's not that they can't read, it's just that they needed an eye evaluation. And so being able to provide resources in the community for eye care was really important. So all these access to care issues are really important to me. That's why I enjoy being on the Health and Human Service budget. But those are all things that I'm very proud of. And I know those are little nuggets, but when you have it where our average wage, most people are making, minimum wage is $12 an hour in our state. Mm-hmm. People have family of four. We're really at the poverty rate. The federal poverty rate for Michigan is very, we're at the bottom there. Mm-hmm. And these little resources to help support that cost for families is really important. And that's what I really thrive on is knowing that I came out of the heart of the community, but I never lost that mindset when I got to the Capitol. And I think that was really important for the entire state. You'd be surprised. I remember when I first started my journey into the legislature, people were struggling because their roofs were leaking. Mm-hmm. And I'm thinking, this is just a Detroit issue. I'm like, man, why people have blue tarps on their roofs? And I drove up to the UP one day for a legislative event, and I'm like, oh, y'all got blue tarps on y'all roofs too. So it was an issue that really housing infrastructure is an issue, and being able to sustain that. Our housing stock in the state of Michigan is very old. Mm-hmm. And so we did a lot of work to make sure, like LIHTC dollars, we had disinvested in LIHTC, which is being able to help support access to housing. But we had disinvested in that. And so being able to reinvest in those programs and reinvest at the, to make sure that people have what they need is really important. We have a program, Michigan Saves, and that's a program to give you a discount on a loan or a zero interest loan so that you can replace your furnace and, some of those, like your furnace or your hot water heater in your home. That's a program we have in our state that, people may not know about. But those are things that I think are really important to making sure that people's tax dollars are being reinvested back into them directly. So,
well, we'd be remiss if we didn't, Norman asked State Senator Santana, give your contact information. Look into that middle camera and give your contact information so that people will know if they need to get more information, because it sounds like you are a plethora of resources and resource information. So just give your contact information so that people can know if they want to ask more questions to you or anybody else on your staff, that they can do that.
So I better make sure I don't get my personal number out because my staff will get on me. So the number to the office is 517-373-0990. And you can also find me at Senator Sylvia Santana. If you just Google it, you can also find us there.
And the one thing too, as we said before, we are so happy to have you here at Watkins Broadcast, to come on the show with us. Our president here, R.J. Watkins, sees the importance of making certain that people come on the show to educate our viewing and our listening audience, as well. So if you could just speak to that.
Absolutely. I think it's important, especially in these times where, I was once told that newspapers, if you don't have a newspaper in your community, that makes your insurance rates go up. I don't know that to be true, but but at the time it makes sense because you're not informed of what's going on in your local community. And so being able to have resources like WHPR TV are really important to making sure that we're getting this message out here, because if this is your only resource for news or knowledge, then and truth to power, then definitely it is important to make sure that having individuals, representatives, and those who are able to spill that knowledge and provide that knowledge get on shows like yours. So I am grateful to be here today and look forward to coming back to continue to provide any resource, because 10 years in the legislature, you learn a lot. And I am grateful for being able to have the ability to provide that resource to the community and the resources that we have been able to provide for our district and also across the state of Michigan. And people need to know and be informed that it's just not your vote at election day that matters, but it's also your testimonials of how government has impacted you or how your life is being impacted that matter when every decision and policy decision get made. So stay informed with the legislature, stay informed when policies are being made, and stay in tune, not beyond the vote, because we can no longer afford to get complacent and be in our silos. As a community, we have to be informed and we have to connect and we have to communicate to bridge that gap. So thank you.
Well, we're definitely very, very fortunate to have you here today. And we definitely would love to have a continued, relationship with you to come on as often as you would like to come on. Now, so just a couple of last questions that I want to throw at you before we end this segment. What's next in terms of, say, you've got one more year?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
What's next? What is there that State Senator Santana has been attempting to accomplish that you'd like to accomplish, or you're going to try and leave it into some of your colleagues to see after you leave your office or your term of office that you'd like to see them to try and accomplish?
So I think the biggest accomplishment for me to continue to pursue would be finding a way to make sure that people's properties are protected. We have seen where across our state and across this country where deed fraud is a real thing. And I think that for me, trying to find a way to make sure that consumer protection is in place for people's personal properties is really important. It's unfortunate that too often that people lose their properties and it's not of their own doing. It's just that people are, doing criminal activities and we have no checks and balances to make sure that that does not occur. So I'll be working diligently to make sure that quitclaim deeds is a priority in our state, that we are making sure that there's more checks and balances for our registered deeds across the state of Michigan, and making sure that we are protecting individuals. It's sad when the registered deeds of Chicago, her property got taken from her, if you recall that, in Illinois, and she dealt with that deed fraud, and that's unfortunate. And it's unfortunate that so many of our seniors are displaced, and people are displaced, and they've done everything right. And so we need to make sure that this is a priority. And so that's one of the things that I'll be working on. As far as policy, I have a ton of ideas on policy. We've tried to reduce some of the systemic issues that impact people of color in the state of Michigan, but I think there's so much work to do. And so my goal, Darwin, to your question, is to leave a manifest of all of the policy ideas that we did not get done and did not make it to through my duration in the legislature, but I'm hoping that it will help to shape Michigan for the long term in a good way and make sure that people in Michigan are prioritized and we continue to uplift Michigan. I'm tired of being on all of the bad lists nationally. We need to get on the good list and make sure that we do everything in our due diligence as policymakers to make sure that people are prioritized and that our state wins every day.
Well, Norman, I'm going to give you a last question, then I know we've got to get ready to wrap up with State Senator Santana, but I'll let you ask a quick question, then I know I got one more question I want to ask her as well, so go ahead.
So after your term is over.
Oh, you took my question. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
What is next What is next?
So you took my question. You just read my
mind. You sound so like somebody's job is not. You sound like this chapter is closed, but it sounds like you still have the energy for another chapter. What's next?
I knew I was going to get this question. My friend told me I was going to get this question, and yes, like I said before, we plan, God laughs. This is one of those things where I do believe that I still have a lot left in me as far as, continue to expand the opportunities here in Michigan to make Michigan a number one, a state-of-the-art state. I just don't know what it looks like yet. Okay. But I will say that I will continue to stay open to opportunities and also continue to be a voice and for the state and be able to continue to support policy decisions across the board. With that said, I don't know as far as elections go. I have my idea of what I want to do, but people have told me, really, so obviously they have other plans for me. But I think the most important thing is just being able to still be open to the possibilities of being a public servant and being able to support the community is really what matters. And public service doesn't always mean that you run for office, but we'll see what it looks like on the other side. I don't know yet. Stay tuned. I will say that. Okay. And I'll keep working diligently throughout the rest of this year and beyond.
Okay, no problem.
Tim is telling us to wrap up, so I'm going to let you give your contact information one more time.
Yes. Senator Sylvia Santana, 517-373-0990. Feel free to reach out, and if there's anything that I can do or our office can do, we're always here for you.
And I just again want to thank your important person. All of your staff is important, but want to thank Andrea Robinson for allowing you to be able to go and connect with us here at Watkins Broadcasting. So again, we want to extend an invitation to you to come back as often as you'd like to come on the show with us.
All right. Thank you.
You've been watching a very special edition of Truth to Power with Norma Clement, Detroit Change Initiative, and with the Honorable State Senator Sylvia Santana. So we hope that you have a great, great weekend, and stay tuned to the upcoming things that State Senator Santana is going to be doing. And you may see a scoop, because it might be a time we might see the first, well, not the first, because we hope we may have another person that might be a female to win the presidency. But there's a lot of things that I can see in the horizon for State Senator Santana. So please, stay tuned.